Before we get into today's episode, I wanted to briefly tell you about something new I have created for 2026. It's called The Practice. I built it because businesses don't always need constant reinvention and learning. Sometimes what we need is a steady rhythm to come back to and implement. A place that you can return to each month to look back at your vision and your goals and what you were trying to achieve, reflect on how that went, plan for your next month, and stay focused on what really will move things forward in your business. The Practice is a 12-month program with monthly sessions designed to support your business throughout the year. We will look at what's really happening, look at your numbers, set clear priorities, track the right things, and create a space for you to be coached every single month and to coach another coach every month too, because that connection is so needed in business. It's calm, it's practical, it is designed to support progress without pressure. Doors are open now and they are open just once a year. You can join until 31st of December at the pre-sale founder rate of £600 plus VAT for the full year, which works out at around £50 per month. If you join now, I'll also be posting you a welcome gift before we kick off properly in January. If you want 2026 to feel more focused, more intentional, and less reactive, then you can find all the details and join the practice via the link in the show notes. Let's get on to today's episode. I want to talk about something that almost every coach avoids looking at, even though this can quietly decide whether your business grows or stumbles. Let's help you connect your income goal to real numbers and, most importantly, to the actions that make your business really work. A lot of coaches set income targets, maybe 5K a month, 10K a month, whatever it is for you, without really knowing how many conversations it actually takes to get there. You might feel like you should be booked out, or you might hope that next month will be different. But until you reverse engineer the result that you want, then you are just guessing. If you don't know how many calls you need to book to reach that income target, then it's highly unlikely to happen. That is assuming you are selling by discovery call, which most people are, unless you have moved to group programs and you're in the scaling phase. So this is what we are going to unpack today. Let's start with a few numbers that are realistic for coaching businesses in 2026. People who track their conversion rate on discovery calls carefully usually are within the range of 25 to 40%. That means roughly 1 in 4 to 1 in 2 people that you speak to will end up signing up with you. This is not a made-up figure. It is what many experienced coaches report when they treat their discovery calls as a sales step and measure the result of those discovery calls. If you are fairly new or haven't started tracking your conversion rate yet, this is a decent assumption. 25% of conversion rate from discovery call to paying client. So if you had 4 people have a call with you, expect to get 1 paying client from those discovery calls. If your conversion rate is higher, that's amazing. If it's lower, then that is information you can work with, not to panic about. There is always that learning curve, and the more calls you do, the more calls you will begin to convert because you will increase your skill on those calls. So next, think about how many clients you actually need. For example, if your goal is 10K a month and your average client investment with you is £2,000, you will need 5 new clients each month to hit your income target. If 1 in 4 calls convert, you need roughly 20 discovery calls to be booked and held in 1 month to reach your target. This is just an example, so you can play around with them. Now you know the average conversion rate for discovery calls, and the insight you may be gaining at this point is that you need more calls booked. So not having enough clients or calls booked does not mean you aren't a good coach or that your work isn't needed. Most of the time, it just means that you haven't looked at the maths clearly. You haven't noticed what the numbers are showing you about your habits. It's really easy to stay behind the scenes, really busy with websites, nurture sequences, creating offers, maybe random posting on social media, because those things can feel productive and we can feel really good about ticking stuff off our list. But if you aren't tracking the number of how many discovery calls you actually booked last month and how many of those turned into clients, then you probably won't prioritize the actions that are going to help you get results. These numbers will quietly whisper the truth that you may have been avoiding until this moment. You need to book more calls, your follow-up system isn't working, you're closing less sales than you maybe think you are, and you're inconsistent with your visibility. These aren't personal failings, they are information that you can now utilize to improve your stats. The numbers will tell you exactly where your business is stuck if you are brave enough to look. Usually, it's a case of volume, needing to tell more people about your service, maybe sending messages, maybe contacting people you used to know through your organization, telling way more people about your service. Often, when I start working with clients, it can feel like it's okay to spend 3 weeks to a month, maybe creating an offer. And actually, what I need to reiterate more often is that all of that time that we are spending creating an offer rather than telling people about your offer is essentially time wasted, because all of the time in the world we can spend behind the scenes making our offer great. But really, we need to do that work really, really quickly. That is, in my view, the really easy work. And I know that that's very unusual because most people are stuck on their niche and offer for years. But really, what I want is that done quick, smart, and then move to actually telling more people about our thing, building your authority, and generating those discovery calls, because that is where you're going to actually get to share the amazing work and the amazing offer that you have done behind the scenes. So let's bring this now into planning for 2026. So ask yourself, what is my income goal? How many clients do I need to hit that goal? Given an average conversion rate or your own conversion rate, if you are tracking, how many discovery calls do I need to get booked? And how many calls, therefore, per week or per month does that translate to? Another example would be your income goal is 5K per month. Your average client investment is £1,000. Your conversion rate will assume is 25% because that's average. The amount of discovery calls you would need to hit your 5K is 20 calls per month. So essentially 5 calls a week on average. So those numbers are not abstract. You can really calendar that. If you aren't booking enough calls, then you can think to yourself, what can I do today to be in touch with people? Maybe that means sending a message to people that have signed up for your lead magnet, if you have a lead magnet. Maybe it means sending a message to welcome people into your world when you connect with them on LinkedIn. Starting some sort of conversation with them that might eventually mean that you can offer to help them with whatever it is they are struggling with. It might mean going out to previous clients to see if they need more help. So as soon as you get this data and realize how much work really needs to be done in the back door of your business, you can start to take bigger action, measure what's working. And if you aren't hitting your goals, the why isn't usually magical. It will be in the volume of the work you are doing and often the metrics that you might not have measured yet. So let's lighten the load ever so slightly with a small shift you can make right now, because you don't suddenly have to start having 20 discovery calls a week. A more useful question today is this: right now, how many calls am I booking and how many calls am I converting into clients? If you have started booking calls, start to track your conversion rate. I know lots of my clients have a super conversion rate, maybe 80%, but that's very unusual. So it's good to know what the average conversion rate is, especially if you are starting out and haven't practiced your skill on those calls yet. Once you know your conversion rate, then the gap becomes really clear. You can start to choose that one thing to focus on next month to get more discovery calls booked, to clarify your offer so it's easier to close once you get those people on the calls. Like I say, there's no point spending too long on your offer if you have no one coming in for calls. You'll get to improve your offer as you have those calls, and you'll see what lands with real humans. You'll then get to improve your follow-up sequence with those people you have had calls with, and you will figure out if you need intake questions so your potential clients feel seen, feel heard, and they are qualified to want the service that you are offering. That often comes later though, so if you have no clients and no calls booked, don't start thinking you have to have all of these forms in place. I would just recommend speaking to as many people as you possibly can. Even if they are the wrong prospects, they may know your ideal client and send more people your way. So your approach will depend on what stage of business you are at right now. This is exactly the kind of unpacking we will do in my new program, The Practice. We will be on those calls itself, looking at the real numbers that matter for your business. We will track metrics there and then every single month, reflect on what they're actually telling you, and decide where to put your focus next. Because income does not happen by itself. It happens when you start to understand all of the activity needed to reverse engineer the result that you want. So before we finish up today's episode, ask yourself, how many discovery calls did I hold last month? How many clients came from them? And how does that compare with the income that I want to make? Naming those numbers right now is a gift to your January self. And if those numbers are lower than you want, then don't worry, that is completely normal. And most people's numbers are lower than they want. That is the name of the game. All we can do is start from where we are now and improve. That is the practice that I am really, really shouting about right now, rather than feeling like behind in your business and this, that, the other. No, your business is never going to be at that place that you think it is. You don't get to that shiny place and everything's done. We're always working on our business, on ourselves. We're never going to tick all those boxes off. So be kind to yourself. Know that this is your starting point and we can move from there and improve every single day. Thank you for listening today. If you want help turning your numbers into clear decisions and real growth in 2026, we will be tracking all of this in The Practice. It's only open once per year and we start on the 12th of January. There is an early bird price in place if you join before 2026, so it's less than £50 a month. I would highly recommend getting over to the show notes and grabbing your spot now. I'll also be posting you a welcome gift, so it would be wonderful to get on with getting that to you before we start in January. It's been wonderful to see so many of you join already, and I have such a good feeling that this program is going to completely transform the industry. My goal with it is that it becomes the place to go as a qualified coach or coach in training to really start to know your numbers, reflect on where you are now, use that information to create your plan for next month, get coached on that plan so you are not stuck in isolation, spinning in your own head. Coach another coach so you improve your craft every single time, and therefore don't lose confidence in your coaching while you build up your business. And then repeat, come back next month and realize that all we can do is look at the data and improve. I have this form that I ask my business of coaching clients to fill in, which I call a CEO scorecard. And I remember completing that form myself, where you essentially rate yourself from 0 to 12 for different areas of your business, like niche, offer, mindset, lead generation, all the different things. And I remember my own scores being super low at one point. And now I've been completing the CEO scorecard for many, many years. I'm like, my gosh, finally my scores are high. And I didn't really notice. But what I do notice is completing that scorecard every single month and thinking, this is so exhausting. Why are my scores so low? How am I ever going to get there? And I didn't notice the tiny, tiny steps along the way as my scores have improved. So all I'm saying is, when you're in that slow part of business, just be kind to yourself. Just keep thinking, how can I increase the volume of work that I'm doing? That doesn't mean work all hours. I work school hours, term time only, but it does mean make sure that you are doing the right things with your time. So in other words, if you have been working on your website for longer than a few months, I would say, let's get that done in a day and move on to something else. But I hope you loved today's episode, and do find the link to join the practice in the show notes. It's only available once per year. So now is the time to jump in, because it's going to be then closing for 12 whole months. And like I say at the end of every episode, trust yourself, believe in yourself, and be the wise gardener who keeps on watering the seed. Thank you so much for listening to this episode of Women in the Coaching Arena. I have a mass of free resources on my website, joannalottcoaching.com. That's Joanna with an A and Lott with 2 T's, joannalottcoaching.com. And I'll also put links in the show notes below. Let me know if you found this episode useful, share it with a friend, and leave me a review, and I will personally thank you for that. Remember to trust yourself, believe in yourself, and be the wise gardener who keeps on watering the seed. Get into the arena, dare greatly, and try.